It is 6 p.m. We will call the Sartell City Council meeting to order for June 26th. Please rise for Pledge of Allegiance. Council, we do have an amended agenda tonight. I'll make that motion with the amendments from staff, and then I'll look for a second. We will have an amended agenda with removing, correction of item 6E, which is the approval of Lions Park quotes to the lowest bidder. And then removal of 9B, which is Heritage Drive Trail Award. We're waiting on some responses from the state on a technical item for that award. So that'll come to us at a future meeting. I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any questions on the amended agenda items? Seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That carries. Open forum public comment. We have one registered tonight. John Ellis, step forward. You have 3 minutes to address council, and no action will be taken tonight.
You need my name and address?
Sorry,
and all that?
name, address for
right.
the record.
This
Thank you.
before, but nobody listened. So, John Ellis, 824 Coburn Court. The ethics or lack thereof surrounding the sale of the golf course is what many find most disappointing. Why is it so difficult to do the right thing? The buyer gets an unlimited amount of time to convince the council why he should be able to buy this land at a significantly reduced rate, yet residents, the owners of this land, only get 3 minutes after the fact to share why it should have been kept. This is simply wrong. First, the appraisal of the land is $800,000. Seems awfully low. Why not get a second appraisal? Let's find the value of the corner lot, the pine cone frontage, the value of this property if it's residential land. What's the value of this property in 10, 20, 30 years? Now that the state legislature recently approved $2.5 million for flood mitigation in that area that might help the area, what's the value of the land now? Why was there never an open forum for the public to share their input? Regardless, why accept the lowball bid netting the city $365,000 for 84 acres? I've spoken to many people. Not a single person has said this is a good idea for the city. This is simply fiduciary misconduct. Now let's talk about the purple elephant in the middle of the room. It is no secret that 2 of our council members are close personal friends of the buyer. Although you are free to be friends with anyone in the community, one has the ethical responsibility to disclose this personal relationship and bias, and thus you have the ethical responsibility to recuse yourself from voting on anything related to this personal relationship, especially a vote with such significant benefit to this friend, which will have a lasting effect on the community for generations. This is simply a conflict of interest. By voting for this, you have failed to hold yourself to the higher ethical standard expected of you from our community. Although I'm not inferring that anything nefarious happened or that there was any ill intent, it is certainly understandable how one might think that this could be the case. Your objectivity was compromised. Your personal feelings unduly influenced your judgment because you're too close to the situation to think fairly and objectively. It simply looks and smells bad. It looks like you gave a friend one heck of a screaming deal on a bunch of land in the middle of our city. You socialized with the buyer. You go out for beers together. Hell, 2 weeks following the vote, you shared a grad party at the very golf course clubhouse that apparently was not to code, needing major improvements with a parking lot that needed replacement. Yet you voted for this anyway. Where's your honesty and integrity? Where are your ethics? Where's your moral compass? Where's this higher standard the community expects from you? Since there has been such a breach of trust and misconduct, I'm in strong support of nothing less than your resignation at this time.
Stop you there at 3.
Thank you.
Council, next on our agenda is special presentations. We have oath of office. I'll ask Chief to step forward. It is my honor to proceed with the oath of office for our new police chief for the city of Sartell. So Brandon, I'll hand the mic to you and repeat after me. I, Brandon Silliard, do solemnly swear
I, Brandon Silliard, do solemnly swear
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America,
state of Minnesota,
state of Minnesota,
and the ordinances of the city of Sartell,
and the ordinances of the city of Sartell,
that I will faithfully, justly,
justly,
and impartially discharge the duties of a police officer for the city of Sartell
and impartially discharge the duties of a police officer for the city of Sartell
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
I just want to take a minute and say thank you, council members, mayor, city staff, PD, for entrusting me with such an awesome responsibility. I couldn't be more honored to take on this role and to take over an agency that has such a great foundation already. Thank you to Lieutenant Mader, Deputy Chief, I'm gonna get that wrong. For those who don't know, I wore brown a long time, so Deputy Chief Schreiner have been awesome through this whole process and helping me acclimate and helping me not make a complete fool of myself my first couple weeks. So thank you. And most of all, thank you to my family, many of which are here tonight, and my children and my wife. Many of you know that this profession does not come without sacrifices, and most of those end up being through your family. And I could not have made this move or decision to take this position without their support and love through this. So thank you so much. I do want to just share that I had the honor of leading the Summerfest parade the other week here, and thank you again, Wayne and Lieutenant Mader, for volunteering me for such a honorable duty, and for Officer Bonfield making sure I made the one turn I needed to make during the parade. I was very appreciative. But at the end of the parade, I was able to step back and stand there and watch as all the citizens came through the parade that were involved, and all the citizens on the street. And that was the first time that kind of hit me, the awesome responsibility and magnitude of that responsibility to make sure that the citizens of this town are safe. And I stepped back for a minute and reflected on that responsibility. And I just want the citizens to know, the council, mayor, staff, PD staff, that I will always make sure that that responsibility is taken seriously. But at the same time, making sure that our PD remains an approachable, community-oriented police department. At the forefront of that is our officers, and it's extremely important to me that everyone knows that their well-being and my support and backing of them and the decisions they have to make every day will always be at the center of what I do to make sure that they are equipped and capable to deliver high-quality police services to our citizens for generations to come. So, thank you.
Yeah, if we can get a couple pictures and then the painting.
Oh. The important. What do we want?
Are we going for pictures?
Push hard.
Picked the wrong kid for that one.
I'll do all council.
Joe, can you go a little that way? Okay.
Can I get a picture of the PE staff, please?
Yeah, let's do that. Good try, guys. And yes, the people in the lobby too. Good try.
You didn't scare me that much in DT today, so.
Okay, you're gonna have to get close. I lost my audience.
Yeah,
They were all here for you. I know,
That's what I was hoping for.
we'll give them a moment just to clear here.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
I know.
I actually thought-
I know how to clear a room.
All right, next item on our agenda is the Benton County Economic Partnership. Amanda, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Amanda Othout. I'm the Executive Director for Benton Economic Partnership. Thought it was due time to come in, just kind of give you an update of what's going on in Benton County. And I just want to first of all thank you for, of course, being a loyal member of Benton Economic Partnership. We appreciate your membership. And without your membership, we can't really do all of the great things that we do. So I'm certainly gonna try to make this short for you. Had to bring my computer just because I wasn't sure if I was gonna be able to read my slides, so getting older, I guess. It's fun. So I just wanted to kind of give you an overview of our year in review so far. And really this kind of encompasses 2022 and part of 2023. First off, I just want to recognize our board members. We have 11 board members through Benton Economic Partnership. And of course, our organization is a membership-driven organization that was established in 2016. A lot of our founding member, of course, Jake Bowerly, he kind of initiated this organization as a kind of a public-private nonprofit organization, kind of spearheading economic development in our county. And you might recognize some of those names, but that's who sits on our board this year. Our city representative, that is Todd Schultz this year from the city of Sauk Rapids. We actually have 5 city memberships, including the city of Sartell. And that membership is basically voted on among all of the cities. They have a liaison that kind of represents all of the cities on our board. So I'm just gonna kind of go through some of our key points that we really focus on throughout the year and really try to keep this short, but one of our main points is that we increase awareness of BEP. We retain and grow BEP membership. We want to continue to grow that membership. So we have a budget to work from each year to facilitate economic development in the county. We have 119 total members. Our membership increased by 55 members since 2020, since I came on board. We have a standing article in the Sauk Rapids Herald. If you get that, you probably know some of the different programs and incentives and initiatives that we have going on in Benton County. We recently hired our newest intern, Johanna. She is a St. Cloud State alum, so she is going through her graduate program right now, and she's been phenomenal. She's really kind of spearheaded a lot of the initiatives, our business retention and expansion program, some of the other things that we have going on. I'll kind of touch on that. We recently, within the last year and a half or so, created some new county marketing videos, and those are featured on our website as well. We certainly attend a lot of different events throughout the year, our consultants forum and our site selector guild event each year. And those events specifically, we have built up relationships with site selectors from essentially across the world. And we continue to attend those events and develop and build those relationships with those folks. Since I started, we've had several site selectors look at our county, and we actually worked on one project, and we have a couple other ones kind of in the works, but those events are really important to attend. You know, another initiative that we have is expanding and building our business in Benton County. And since 2020, and I use 2020 as an example just because that's kind of when I started tracking things a little bit differently, so we can kind of tangibly see some of the effects of our work. So BEP leveraged just over $2.6 million in public incentives, so that's state, local, regional incentives, which resulted in over $25 million in private capital investment. And those are the projects that I just touched. Those are the stuff that, you know, we help applicants apply for state funding through the MIF program, through the JCF program, any local incentive program, any revolving loan fund program. So you can see kind of the overall effect of our work in our county. So of those projects that I worked on specifically, we retained 442 jobs in our county, and we created 59 new full-time jobs in our county. And I also track the wages that, you know, for retention and attraction, and we're right around that $24 an hour. So they're pretty decently paid jobs that we're retaining and creating in the county. We also manage our county's revolving loan fund program. Our end of the year cash balance is $883,000, just over that actually. But so our revolving loan fund program is really a great economic development tool for our businesses that are looking to expand, attract new businesses. You know, if we have a business that's looking at purchasing equipment, we can use that fund as a source of gap financing for their project. And really what gap financing is the difference between what a primary lender is gonna lend on a project. So we always work with a primary lender. And then what the business is going to be putting in, or the project is going to be putting into the project. And then sometimes there's that gap, and that's where we can fill some of that gap in their project, so we can get that project off the ground. So it's a really good tool to use, and we've used it quite a bit in the last couple years at various different businesses across our county. And I mentioned Johanna, our intern, manages our business retention and expansion program, and that's really successful. We actually, I have a statistic on in my notes, I guess, but of the businesses that we visit, we typically see 70% of those businesses looking to grow or expand in our county within the next 5 years. So it's really interesting to be part of that as well. In fact, you may have gotten, I know we're trying to get quite a few businesses from across the county, but if you get invited to go to those, I encourage you to certainly go to them, because we do try to invite our folks from all different cities within the county. Our COVID business relief grants, we certainly did a number there. So we helped 134 actually we provided 134 grants to businesses in our county with just under $2 million worth of grants, and that was in 2020 and 2021. A lot of those businesses are still up and running today because of those grants, and we could certainly tell that they needed some help. One of the most recent projects that I've touched on here is our Advanced Interconnect Technologies project. They'll be expanding. They're actually working on their project right now. We assisted the city of St. Cloud on the east side there. They received $125,000 in forgivable MIF loan and just over $341,000 in JCF funding through the state. So that's just an example of what we've done in this past year. There's others as well. I thought this was kind of an interesting statistic, so you can kind of see, I track everything. It's probably been ingrained in me since I was worked in Elk River, but so this actually is interesting because I track where my leads come from, and by far, my leads come from BEP members. So you can certainly see that over the course of the last few years. This one is also very interesting. You can kind of see trends in the number of leads by month and year. On average, we're seeing anywhere from 5 to 6 leads each month, and you can kind of see over the course of the last few years, where those trend lines are. 2022 was a very busy year. 2023, you can start to see, things happening too, but it was a slow start to the year. Another initiative is we're facilitating development in the east side. I talked about the AIT project. We also partnered with the City of St. Cloud, GSDC, to apply for the Main Street Economic Revitalization Grant Program. And that was kind of through the Initiative Foundation and also through the state of Minnesota. They received $1.5 million for downtown St. Cloud. Harvester Square Event Center was a recipient of some of those funds. They received $131,000. That was certainly a significant amount, so they can do some renovations to their event space. Macro Building, they received $60,000. I haven't updated this. There's a couple more businesses that have received funding through this program in the last month, actually in the last couple weeks. 539 Properties also received $197,000 through their construction assistance and franchise fee program. So we've helped all of these businesses apply and receive those fundings through those different programs. Another initiative we have is to identify and align business workforce needs with K through 12 and higher ed. We established a workforce committee in 2022, so just this last year. That was in response to an event that we held through one of our quarterly meetings. And we had, kind of a workforce event, and we did a Q&A. So a lot of the things that we heard at that event is that there's a need for new workers in this area, and we hear it everywhere, but we just want to increase those pipelines. And so we started this workforce committee last year, and we've done a number of different things. So we participated in the EPIC event. I know Anna is a huge part of that as well, so we participated in that. We also completed a BEP workforce development survey to all of our businesses and members. We established a partnership with the Central Minnesota Reentry Program. They work with second chance workers. They received $240,000 through a grant that we helped them apply through the Initiative Foundation for Housing and Social Assistance to grow their program. So it's a nonprofit organization. And again, they work with second chance workers. It's a way to get those folks back into the workforce, being productive. So we're working with them. And then we received a grant from the Initiative Foundation to help identify housing opportunities in the county for second chance workers. And of course, we continue to work with the Central Minnesota Reentry Program. It's a great program, and they're doing a lot of really great work. So hopefully we'll hear more from them in the next couple of years. That $240,000 that they received is over a course of 3 years. So they'll have, I think they received the first $80,000 allocation, and then they'll continue to grow their programming over the next couple years. And then we held just recently our workforce educator panel during our quarterly meeting in April. Of course, you're all welcome to attend our quarterly meetings. We'll feed you, and it's kind of a great opportunity to network with other businesses too. The other thing is we identify community development opportunities to lead in Benton County. You probably heard a little bit about our housing study. I probably talked about it last time I was here. Our housing study is now complete. We identified the need of over 3,800 housing units in all product types in the county. So we recently completed a presentation on that housing study. This was initiated by the county, but also, you know, some of our cities participated in that as well. And Maxfield Research is who we commissioned to do this study. So it was a really great study. It's 240 pages. If you're really bored one night and you really want to read through it all, it's great. And it's very robust. Another initiative, you probably heard about our broadband initiative, and that's where we're working with the county and providers, our townships, and our cities to kind of build out the county with fiber to home and fiber to business. We have selected Benton Communications, and when I say we, I mean the county, selected Benton Communications to complete that work, of course using ARPA dollars that the county has allocated to that project. We're waiting to hear back from the state on their border-to-border grant program to see if that project will move forward. That build-out will happen in 2024 through 2026. And they're actually starting on phase 1 of the project through some additional funding that the county had on the north side of Highway 23. So that is being built out currently. And they're just waiting for the grant funds to build out the south side of 23. So we will have fiber to home, fiber to business, throughout the county with high-speed internet.
And just for clarification on that, will that impact the city of Sartell in Benton County?
Yep, everything,
That'll
so
be
if
in-city.
there's pockets of areas within the city, and the Benton County side, they'll certainly get built out.
Okay, awesome.
Yep. And then we, of course, working with all of our community partners in Region 7W to update the SEDS program or the SEDS document. And this is basically so that our region is eligible for federal funding through the federal EDA. That is about it. I try to keep it short, but I'm certainly open to any questions that you have that either I can answer tonight or I can get back to you on. So certainly open it up for questions for you.
Council, any questions? Tim?
I know it's probably a little early, but your study in potential land development opportunities, we just acquired some property in Benton County, and we own it. And we are looking forward to partnering with you to find the right user, and I'm sure you've talked to Anita and moving forward. So I just kind of keep that on your radar to make sure that if you're out there, we have a wonderful piece of property in Benton County, and we'd love your help getting it sold and developed out.
Yep, I certainly will. And I've, when I go to those site selector events, it is one of the properties that I showcase at those events. So
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that $1.5 million grant for the city of St. Cloud, Main Street really stuck out to me as, wonder what the mill property could garner, so, it'd be a good partnership and good competition there.
yeah, certainly.
Real quick, sorry. Amanda, what is the process by which a company or organization approaches BEP for funding? What does that process look like?
So really it starts either with a phone call, email, and then I, typically try to meet them in person, talk through the project. And then I look to get the city partners or whatever community, whether it's a township, whether it's the county, or the city itself, together to talk about the project and see how we can move that project forward. If they want to inquire just on a general scope of what different types of funding sources there are out there. Certainly a call, I mean, is easy to do. And I'm pretty knowledgeable about some of the grant programs and funding sources that are out there available for businesses. So certainly have anybody reach out to me.
Great, thank you.
Anything else?
Looks like we're good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Council, next on the agenda is the approval of city council minutes from June 12th regular city council and June 12th special city council. Take them as one if there's a desire.
I'll make a motion to approve both council minutes.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Those carry. On to consent agenda. Again, we made the correction for item E to approve the lowest quote, which is Dale Gruber Construction. We'll look for a motion on items A through E.
I'll move A through E.
So motion to approve A through E. Is there a second? Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Next up is our public hearings. We have two public hearings tonight. First one is the preliminary and final plat for Prairie Meadow Estates 4.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Tonight, before you is the preliminary and final plat for Prairie Meadow Estates 4. As you can see here, it is in the highlighted purple area. Surrounding that is red, showcasing the B2 General Business District. And then you can see a little bit on the bottom left there is light gray, which is our light industrial zoning district. So it borders the same zoning district. Previous council action related to this development was approving the conditional use permit and vacation request on February 13th of this year. Planning Commission did review the preliminary and final plat on June 5th, 2023 and recommended approval. They did not have any comments relating to the item. All development fees for this project will be due prior to releasing the plat for recording. The applicant has also submitted the necessary documentation for site plan approval process, which has been initiated by staff. We are still working through that at this time. During that process, the site will be reviewed to ensure compliance with their conditional use permit as well as other general performance standards within the B2 General Business District. This was reviewed, the preliminary and final plat was reviewed by staff, city staff, Benton County, MnDOT, with no concerns and ultimate approval in there as well, which is included in the resolution. Any of those items or comments that will be addressed and they will be addressed and verified once the development occurs and nears completion to adhere to those comments that were provided. And just for a timeline perspective, Rob, if you could go to the final slide, please. The preliminary and final plat is difficult to read just due to the easements and vacations that are on there, but this is the best site plan that shows where the proposed storage buildings will be located on the property. Just some timelines, ground and site work has been initiated and they'll start to do some of that. Currently, footing and foundations, they are hoping to get completed by late of this year. And for timing from the developer side, they are unable to get the actual buildings for this site because they are a specific and special building because they are a heated environment storage facility. So they have a longer period to complete those buildings, but they're hopefully going to have this whole site completed beginning of next year. So they do plan to work through the winter and be done by spring of next year. The actions requested tonight would just to approve the preliminary and final plat as well as hold the public hearing. I would take any questions that you may have as well.
Council, any questions before we open the public hearing? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to testify on the preliminary and final plat for Prairie Meadow Estates 4, please step forward. Second offer, anyone wishing to testify, please step forward. Third and final call, anyone wishing to testify on the preliminary and final plat of Prairie Meadow Estates 4. We will close the public hearing. Council, any discussion? Seeing none, in front of us is a request for the preliminary and final plat. Would be looking for a motion on the plat. We have a motion to approve the plat. Do you need a separate motion for preliminary and final? Just one?
Just one, it's all in one resolution, just one.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That item carries. Second public hearing tonight is the final assessment hearing for 19th Avenue South Improvement Project.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. We're here tonight to adopt, or to review, and then hopefully adopt the assessments for 19th Avenue South. Our project, as you know, is on the top left is County Road 4, and then we go north, and then the second half of the project is on the bottom part of it, and we end at County Road 133. We've got assessments, two types we're talking about today. We got the assessments, gonna be our standard assessment, it's gonna be 15 years at 4%. And then we've got the deferred assessments, which are those that are not currently in the city and would be deferred for 30 years. And with that deferment of 30 years, it's principal and interest. The amounts of the assessments were based on appraisals. And so they haven't changed from the preliminary to the final, except for one, and I'll get into that. So you've seen these numbers before. We're at about 7.9 total project. 6.7 million is federal funding. The assessments do help us offset those costs that are local. So like I said, the assessments are all the same from preliminary to final except one. This is the Lobermeyer property that was split between the storage link parcel and the remaining part to remain by Lobermeyer. So you see 11 is the parcel preliminarily, and then after the split, 11A and 11B. So what we did is we took the assessed amount, or the appraised amount of $67,100, and we prorated it by using standard city assessment policy. And it basically works out to be about a 60-40 split, with Storage Link getting 40% and the remaining parcel by Lobermeyer at 60%. That's basically it. Fairly straightforward when we do appraisals. The process for assessment didn't have a lot of variation to it. So with that, I'll open to questions prior to the public hearing.
Council, any questions before we open the public hearing? Scott, if you could go back one slide maybe.
Certainly.
Just a quick math question for myself. So federal funding, 6.7 million, total cost, 7.9. My simple math, that's a 2.2 million, and we're assessing.
1.2.
Yep,
1.2, yep,
we're assessing under 700.
right.
Rob, is that difference city contribution, or where do we make that up?
Yeah,
500,000?
The difference between the 7.9 and the 6.7 is what we bonded for 19th Avenue, because the assessments will be due over time. We weren't able to cash flow it during the time of construction. So the difference is the bonding, and we'll use those assessment amounts to pay back principal and interest payments on the 2022A bonds.
So, sorry, we're making the difference up, so if let's just call it, we're assessing 700 total. There's a $500,000 delta.
Oh,
That's coming out of general fund,
Water and sewer.
water and sewer fund.
yeah, a combination of street, water, and sewer.
Okay.
Since it does have utility and street reconstruction, we split it out between the three funds accordingly.
Okay.
The majority of that delta, though, is water and
Water
sewer
and sewer.
costs. Yeah.
Confident you explained it to us before, but saw the numbers and just wanted to see, how that was adding up. Thank you. We will open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to testify on the final assessment hearing for 19th Avenue South improvements, please step forward. And please just state your name and address for the record.
Diane Fish, 1701 19th Avenue South, Sartell. I've talked to Scott before, and I don't know if this is the appropriate time, or I got my letter. And when I talked to Scott, I live in the township, deferred for 30 years. And again, tonight you said principal and interest. My letter says my assessment will be $11,500. In 30 years when it's due, I will owe how much? 11,500 or more? I'm not understanding
Sure.
that part of it. And that's kind of what we need to know of what's going on. And I don't know if this is the appropriate time and place for this.
We certainly can make that. Rob, are you able to address that quick?
Yeah, interest won't accrue over the deferment period, so in 30 years, you'll owe the 11,500.
That's the total amount we will owe, because every time I've talked to Scott, he says interest, principal and interest are deferred. If there's no interest, why are we deferring interest? What are we deferring? I don't understand, and I guess you're guaranteeing me that I won't have to pay any interest on my,
As long as it's, as I see on here, as long as it's paid within the 30-year.
so there's
Correct.
gonna be a specific date when it's due, and as long as we pay on or before that date, it'll just be principal, correct? Okay,
And that is detailed in the resolution.
and is that something that I can find somewheres and have, that I can read it? Because most of the stuff that I get, it's not something the general population can understand.
Yeah. Or sometimes us as council members as well.
Well, right, well, I'm wondering, I mean, there should be a way where it goes, so what this means is, in 30 years, if you pay on the due date, on or before, you will only owe this amount. I wish they would put stuff in plain English.
Yeah,
Okay, so there is a place where I can get a copy of it, and it'll say,
there is, and it's on paragraph 3 on our website. It's available.
okay.
Oh, Anna, you had something?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I was just gonna say, we'll get a signed copy from Ryan, which makes it an official, and we'll put a number on it and a seal, and then we always send those over to, Scott in April, and then he can get it to you.
Okay,
Does that sound good, Scott?
all right, yeah.
Then at least you've got a signed copy, cause that way that'll be what you'll want, that's what gets recorded.
Oh, that's what I said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
no.
absolutely.
Okay,
And
thank you.
just for others that may be tuning in, your neighbors that might be in the same situation, again, paragraph 3, deferred assessments, the last sentence, interest will not accrue on assessment amount during the 30-year deferment period.
Okay, it says it won't accrue, but it doesn't say on that date they won't go, okay, we're gonna put, if they're not adding it on, but are they gonna have it the last day go, okay, there's, because what I understood you to tell me is if I was one of the people that is making 15-year payments,
Yep.
when the first payment comes due, if I don't pay all of it, you're gonna add 4% on. So when my payment comes due, you're gonna put 4% on it, you're telling me no.
That's correct. Yep.
And what happens, sorry, just to play this out, in 30 years, that deferred assessment comes due. If it's not paid at the 30-year mark, can we offer any direction there, or is that maybe a follow-up?
That's probably a follow-up. I have not encountered that
But as
before.
of right now, what I'm being told is, on the date that I'm told it's due, there, I'm assuming there's a specific date, as long as it's paid on or before that date, there should be no interest added. Whatever this letter says is the amount I'll, oh,
Correct.
okay.
Yep. Good clarification. Anyone else wishing to testify? Third and final call, anyone wishing to testify on the final assessment hearing, 19th Avenue South improvement? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Oops. Council, any other discussion? Seeing none, we would need a motion to approve the final assessments.
I will make a motion to approve the final assessments on the project, 19th Avenue.
We have a motion to approve the final assessments on 19th Avenue South. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. New business, we have financial management and capital improvement plan.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. So the full 2024 through 2028 financial management plan is included within your packets. I just wanted to cover the highlights in these next few slides here. So financial management plan serves as a guide for ongoing financial management for the city over the next 5 years. Objectives are to incorporate our pillars, values, and strategies while remaining within our budget policies, debt policies, and fund reserve. A lot of key assumptions made over the next 5 years, and I tried to highlight the major ones. The first one being LGA growth and one-time public safety aid from the ominous tax bill. The one-time public safety aid was split 80-20 between police and fire based on operating and capital expenditures. Other general fund, non-personnel costs growing at historic levels, and taxable market value projected to increase 9% based on early indicators from the county and 6% annually beginning with tax year 2025. Continued strong development, and then staffing additions included within this slide. These are not final or set in stone. When staffing addition is ready to move forward, it would be brought to City Council. Then we have debt assumptions, 10 million in 2025 for the West Side full reconstruction project and 6.4 million in 2026 to finance the new water tower. So these are the policies referenced in the prior slide, and the first being the budget policy. So simply stating that our levy shall not exceed our tax base, meaning our tax rate should remain flat year over year. Debt policy that was set this spring, that our total bonds outstanding, a target of 1.5% to 2.5% of our estimated market value with a maximum of 5%. And then we have a fund reserve policy. For special revenue funds, it needs to remain above zero, and anything greater than 3 times our cash balance for the budget the next year would need to be approved by council. And then capital funds and enterprise funds having a minimum balance of 3 months cash and investments. And then anything greater than that needs to be paid for with future capital projects. It's not money we can just sit on. So to that first point, the budget policy, you can see here in the graph the tax capacity, that top line, tax rate, the middle line, and tax levy, the bottom blue line. The tax capacity and tax levy remain parallel, thus tax rate remaining flat year over year, which is consistent with our policy. The debt projections, this is our projected bonds outstanding compared to our debt target. Bond outstanding being the bar chart and our debt target being the 2 lines in blue there, maximum at top, minimum at the bottom, and this is assuming a 5% estimated market value growth year over year. So by year 2028, we should be within our target debt policy. Fund reserves, so this is shown over time from 2024 to 2028. The green being within policy, the red being outside of the policy, and the yellow being no expenditures planned. With no expenditures planned. If we have a cash balance and I divide it by 0, it gives me an error, so I wasn't able to put a percentage in there. But if we focus on the red and start with police equipment fund, public works equipment fund, street fund, and property development fund, they're working their way into compliance over the next few years. And I think we just need to give them a little bit of a grace period since we did adopt this policy this past year to get within compliance over the next couple of years. The other funds, the first being the sales tax fund, is projected to fall negative in 2027 and 2028 from the last couple of phases of the Pinecone Road South overlay project. So it's something we'll continue to monitor annually. Sales tax is really tough to project. So based on what we receive this year and what we project the next year, any legislative changes, we'll make adjustments accordingly. The fire equipment fund does fall negative in 2027 when we replace engine 2022. And Peter will talk to this after the financial management plan. But if this is something we don't want to see go negative, it does rebound in 2028, so we do have that negative within 2027. But if it's something we don't want to see negative at all, we'd have to look at moving out other purchases, potentially an interfund loan, so borrowing from another fund, more flush with cash, or equipment financing to spread out some of those payments. And then we see the water fund in red at 23% in 2028, which falls just below our policy of 25%. So not of concern right now, and we'll continue to monitor that one every year, similar to the rest of these funds.
Hey, Rob, real quick on that slide. Talked about a grace period of getting into compliance. I think that's rational. On the Public Works Fund, they don't get into compliance till 2026. Is there something big there in 2025 that's bringing them down?
Yeah, in 2024, we're purchasing a snowplow. So that does affect the fund within 2024, cash balance within 2024, and ultimately affecting.
And then you slide deeper in 2025. What's that attributed to?
We get closer to our policy in 2025. We're trying to get above 25%.
Okay.
Capital improvement planning, we did incorporate within the financial management plan. And typically your capital items are purchases over $5,000 with a useful life of over 2 years, not the routine repair and maintenance items that may be over 5,000, but these are with useful lives over 2 years. The process was department heads providing their list to me, and then me ensuring and ensuring that we're within the bounds of the policies that we had adopted in the spring. Does not include all capitalized items. As I stated, for example, stormwater maintenance, MS4 permitting, street studies. They are included within the plan. They're just not included within the capital expenditures in these next few charts. And then we tried to be as objective as possible with the prioritization on these capital items. Priority 1 being a must do, priority 2 should do, priority 3 could do, priority 4 desirable based on those bullet points. I didn't intend to cover the capital items because we went through these in the special meeting, but I've included these slides if we need to come back to them. So that was a high-level overview of financial management plan. I'd be happy to field any questions.
Council, any questions on the financial management plan, capital improvement plan?
I would just say that good job on the planning and projections and kind of trying to get out ahead of ourselves. I know that's been a conversation we've talked a lot about. Just to reiterate though, that these are projections. These are kind of a placeholder until we get into the actual budgeting process surrounding things like capital expenditures, staffing, whether or not we want to see the debt rate go down even further than your projections, or staffing, or there's obviously a lot of decisions that are made specifically. And so just want to kind of think like this is projections. We may want to see our tax rate go down, go up. There are other conversations that I think happen through the budgeting process, but this is directional in nature, correct?
Yeah, correct. And when we talk about the 2024 budget, that process will begin within the next couple of months here. We'll meet with Finance Committee and then full council to discuss where we want to set the levy for 2024. But yeah, simply a guide or projection over the next 5 years.
Okay. Like I said, I think very good job in directionally taking the information you have today and planning out to the future. So I think that makes us more agile as we continue to move forward with the actual decisions. So good job.
I'd simply add that it helps us, what you laid out there really helps us make decisions quicker. It felt like in the past and in multiple years prior, maybe decisions were made in a vacuum and don't understand what those trade-offs are all the time, right? And so here, I think it really helps us understand what the trade-offs are of pulling a budgeted item ahead or having to delay it. So love the work, appreciate that, and great job. Council, look for a motion on the financial management and capital improvement plan.
I'll move.
There's a move to approve.
Move to approve.
Move to approved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Seal Coat Project Award.
All right, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Hunter Lund. I'm part of the SEH engineering team. Before you tonight is the 2023 Seal Coat Project for Award. Just a brief background. I know this has come to council before, so just a quick refresher of the project. The city, in their capital improvement planning, identifies streets for overlays, seal coats, and then some miscellaneous street and storm fixes throughout the years. For the 2023 priorities, those you can see on the screen here, just over 25,000 linear feet of road as a part of this project to be seal coat. Bids were opened on June 14th with the low bid coming from Asphalt Surface Technologies or Aztec Corporation. That was in the amount of $369,572.59. Now this was well below the estimated, or the engineer's estimate of $611,300. So bids came in very well there, and then you can see the estimated total project cost of $455,402.59. And as I mentioned, this is part of the CIP planning every year, so the city has budgeted $1.975 million for 2023 seal coat overlay and then the miscellaneous street and storm repairs. Overlay was brought to the June 12th council and was awarded with estimated project cost being 1.39. So you can see if you combine that, that's about that 1.8 million for those two if this would be awarded tonight. Leaving just over 129,000 for those miscellaneous street and storm repairs. Those would be brought to council at a later date. We'd work with Public Works to identify those areas throughout the city. Quick project schedule. Plan approval was May. Bidding took place in June, as I mentioned, and award potentially tonight, with construction taking place this summer and then wrapping it up by September. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and we'd be looking for a motion to approve and award this project.
Tim.
Did I hear you correctly? It came in under budget?
Yes, that'd be correct. Estimate was just over 611,000. And so this is a much larger scale project than we've seen for our typical seal coats in Sartell, and so that played a big role in that. Just there are very few line items on this particular project, and so when you increase the scale, that amount, so.
Excellent, thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions? Hunter, when Scott was up on the mill and overlay, he had some new designs that really cut the cost. What are you doing on these? Kidding. We won't put you on the spot.
50, right?
No, that's awesome. Like Councilmember Elness mentioned, just coming in under budget. We haven't always been that way, and so is that us a little bit scared of how we've estimated previously, or are we, you talked about 25,000 linear feet, are we actually seeing the cost per linear foot decrease in the marketplace, or are we estimating higher?
Yeah, you know, a lot of our cost stuff is based on just what we're seeing in, you know, in recent projects and local projects, and so, just, yeah, I guess I haven't looked at it, broken it down by lineal foot exactly, but it's broken up by a square foot of road. And so when you increase it this dramatically compared, I think last year we had, I don't remember the square footage, but it was a very, very small portion of road, and so then when you increase it by this much, it just drops that unit price so much more.
Hunter, correct me if I'm wrong, but the, excuse me, the unit price that you used was what was awarded last year. So we had the cost from last year. So just that scale of economy played a big factor.
Sure. Okay, awesome.
Other question I have is, so once this, if this is approved, I should say, what's the project scope of, like, does city sign off on to ensure like which roads are done when, and, you know, in concert with other construction projects that are happening? What's the process that happens with that?
Yeah, with the seal code, they do it under traffic, and it goes pretty quick. And so we'll do a pre-construction meeting with the contractor and lay out, discuss their schedule and which plans they plan to tackle when, and talk through that with them.
And we will definitely push to get it done before school.
Mayor,
Yeah, sorry.
just one quick thing that I'd add, as we just approved the financial management plan and capital improvement plan, that's a part of it. I know we took a strong stance on let's try to eliminate debt, and I don't think we even realized as we were doing that and being able to pay cash and this economy of scale, putting all these projects on at the same time, that not only are we able to save the interest and debt payments and taking out debt, but we also were able to save a pretty substantial amount of money. I don't know that I've seen a bid come in this low, and I think it really speaks to the work that you just approved of let's get these projects done in groups, economy of scale, avoid debt. I think it just, it's timely after the plan that you guys just approved. It looks like it's working, and in more ways than I think we even anticipated. So kudos to you guys for making that policy change.
Yeah, great call out. As I look at, we've got, you know, 100,000 plus left. I think about, you know, how do we take that to future years, right? So next year, if we don't have enough projects to get these economies of scale, how do we bump some to year 2? And so every other year we have a large project that can reap that benefit. And if one of the roads, condition-wise, needs to be redone, how do we utilize that extra $100,000 to do something meaningful? But absolutely, love seeing the savings on this, and puts us in a much better spot, really 2, 4, 6 years from now.
And I would just add that it turns us from a reaction to a proaction, and I think that we'll only get better at utilizing the template and the roadmap once we have one from that long-term planning. So I think that this council will get a feel, the city staff will get a feel for what works, where can we leverage, where can we not, and I'm excited to see that work as we continue to move forward.
Council, look for a motion on the Seal Coat project award. We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second to approve the Seal Coat project award. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Council, we did remove item B, so item C, fire engine purchase.
Mayor, members of council, reason I'm bringing forth the truck tonight that we'd be purchasing in 2026 and 2023 is because of urgency on a couple of matters, obviously rapid price increase and everything else. But I kind of want to take you through a little background on the why behind that. So the fire department standards, NFPA 1911 is the standard for inspection, maintenance, testing, and retirement of in-service automotive fire apparatus. So Chapter 5 specifically goes into retirement of fire apparatus, and they basically state that apparatus should respond to first alarms for the first 15 years and for the next 5 years be in reserve status for use of major fires or as temporary replacement for out of service first line apparatus. Be retired at 20 years of age unless the following, unless the apparatus meets the recommended annual service, the acceptance level test and has been deemed in excellent mechanical condition. Testing includes weight, road pump performance by qualified technician, which we do on all of our pumping apparatus every year. So just a little background on our current fleet and the age of our primary response apparatus. So engine 24, which is our primary response apparatus, is a 2007 General, which is currently 16 years old. So 2026, which we're talking about, having this new truck come into line, it would be 19 years old at the time as a primary. So this one would fall to the number 2, which on a commercial fire alarm, commercial fire, this would be the second truck that rolls. Engine 22, which you see on there, this is the one that we're talking about replacing right now. This is a 1990 Freightliner. It's currently 33 years old, and this new engine would replace this truck. Some of the other trucks that we have in line, just for background, Rescue 29, which is our primary response vehicle for car accidents, any kind of a medical response. It's currently 23 years old, following the plan that we're on right now. A lot of this stuff, I'm kind of building the case that we need to, I love the responsible financial planning that the city's looking at, and just to help them to understand where the fire department's at on this. But that one is, Rescue 29 will be 31 years old when it comes due for replacement based upon the current plan now. Tender 25, that's currently 28 years old. The replacement plan on that was very sketchy. We were fortunate to get that approved here recently. With a FEMA grant, we were 95% funded on that. So the city portion on that is, like we said, around 24,000. Tower 21, we upgraded 2 years ago. So that is actually in very good shape, but long-term planning, just to kind of keep forward thinking, and I'll go into this at the end, is just kind of remember bundling at the end. We obviously saved a lot of money on the road packages. So we purchased Tower 21 2 years ago. We're purchasing a tender, and we're likely purchasing an engine in the next couple of years. With that being said, we would have saved a lot of money by purchasing those 3 trucks together. That doesn't really help us right now, but 20, 25 years from now, having that kind of model in place is gonna save the city a tremendous amount of money. So looking at our trucks, on the left, you'll see engine 22. That's the one that's 33 years old. That'd be the truck we're replacing, and engine 24 on the right. So engine 22, like I said, it's already 33 years old, would be approximately 36 years old on delivery of a new engine. It's very good shape for the age of the apparatus, lacks modern safety components. It's actually got all lap belts other than the driver's seat. Engine 24, which is our primary one, it'll be approximately 19 years old on arrival of a new engine. Extensive corrosion and salt damage on the underside. It's got low mileage, likely that the powertrain will be in good condition longer than the body and underbody components. Just a look underneath there, you can kind of see some of the damage to engine 24, which is our primary response already. Those are the battery boxes. They're slated to be replaced here soon. We replaced air brake cylinders already. A lot of rust damage. We put in a undercarriage wash at the station that actually has a salt neutralizer to help prevent any further damage and for the rest of our apparatus so that this doesn't continue. So to wrap that all up, so what's the actual good recommendation for an apparatus replacement prime, right? NFPA says 20 years, total life expectancy on it. All this comes on the burdens of our taxpayers, and the city only has so much money in there. So to me, looking at this, trying to bring this all together, I think for a city like Sartell, 25-year total service life for an apparatus is a really fair time to land on. Well, to have that 15 years for a frontline and 5 years of reserve doesn't really set us up for success. So my recommendation for the department is, in the city, is to try to go forth with 12 and a half years as our frontline and 12 and a half years as our number 2 engine. And then also not pushing back the replacements off the plan, because every time that happens, it kind of messes up the compression, and then, as you'll see in the next slide here, it really challenges us financially on planning for those. So proposed purchase, actually. So we've been looking at trucks for the last couple of years, trying to land on the right engine, being prepared, realizing that the cost of these things is increasing so rapidly. This is an E1. It's very similar to the tower we have, so our operators and from a training and operation standpoint, our firefighters, they'll be able to jump right into this and almost operate it similar to what engine 20, or Tower 21 is. Same pump panel, same driving components, very, very similar. Here's another side view of it in front. So with it, we have a Sourcewell contract pricing right now, and one of the other urgencies with this is the diesel engine. 2027, the new emission standard kicks in, which kicks pricing up a lot again. With current Sourcewell contract pricing, with the L9s coming, which is a very sought after engine right now, the Sourcewell contract price is $848,000, so just under $850,000 on this. We believe we can still get that engine. I talked to them this morning. It changes on a daily basis. Penske bought up a large number of the L9s in the country right now, trying to beat the new emission standard. The next upgrade we'd have to do if we couldn't get that one is the X12, which puts us almost $50,000 higher. It's a great engine, but the cost and everything else right now is just a huge challenge. The price last November on the same engine was actually $780,000, so it's taken a significant jump since just November. In 2021, it was closer to $650,000. Talking to several vendors and looking at the anticipated cost, if we miss this opportunity to get something pre-2027 emissions, it's likely that's gonna be over $1 million for an engine, and it could be a few months just because they're gonna be out of the pre-2027 emission trucks. So again, with this too, the expected delivery of this truck, what I'm looking for is approval now. We wouldn't have to have anything down on this truck. The expected delivery is at the earliest fourth quarter of 2025. Talking to them today, it's likely that it'll be first quarter of 2026. They're already getting some build times back for March of 2026. Anything we would decide to put down, if this is approved, we would gain 3% interest on it. So my request today is for a motion to approve $900,000 for an engine and equipment purchase. The first choice would be with the L9 package, which is $848,987, and then leave the additional $51,000 for equipment. Obviously, the engine it's replacing, engine 22, will be 36 years old, so all the equipment on there is also 36 years old. Going off of Tower 21, thankfully we gained a little interest as that truck was being built, and there was some money in the equipment fund, and we spent really close to that to equip engine, or Tower 21. If we're not able to get that engine, we'd need the $900,000 just to purchase the truck, and we'll have to get creative on what the loose equipment budget would be that. So again, I'm available for any questions, but my request be for approval of $900,000 for a new engine and equipment.
Council, what questions do we have for Chief?
Can you give me an idea of the equipment that you're talking about? I have no idea what actually you would have to add to a $900,000 truck.
Right. So basically, I mean, everything from your handheld thermal imaging cameras to your axes, your halogen bars, a positive pressure ventilation fan is over $5,000 alone. These trucks that are being built now don't have as much of a built-in onboard electrical system, so they're more reliant on battery tools. Our current engine has a hydraulic extrication equipment on it. We believe in having that, so our first response to an accident on the highway that could have potential for a car fire, we also want to have extrication equipment within that. A lot of departments are looking at going to like a combination cutter spreader, which is just a single tool, which is around 10 to 15, 20,000, depending on what you're looking at there. Every compartment in there is going to be another cost, but like I said, last time I would say we were over 40,000 on loose equipment that we spent for sure. So my goal wouldn't be to spend the whole 51,000, but I believe that it would probably have to happen or be close to it.
Rob, can you walk us through the finance side of this and, the planning process and just kind of give us an overview?
Yeah, so within the financial management plan, we did anticipate a purchase of 1Q 2026. And you can see in 2027 that the fund does become negative with the purchase of the $900,000 truck if we were to pay in cash in full at that time. As I mentioned, if that was not the desire of council to have the fund go negative, we could push out other expenditures that would be made out of the fire equipment fund over the next few years. We could look at potentially an interfund loan where we'd borrow from another fund and have the fire equipment fund pay that back so that it doesn't go negative, or we could look at equipment financing when it does become due in 2026, so spreading that payment out. We would have to take on debt, but we could spread those payments out. So a few different options that I've looked at.
And just to add to that, Rob, the amount below zero was like 95,000, right around there.
Yeah.
Just to give you a ballpark of below zero. So when you, I wish we could pull up that PowerPoint with the red and green, where it was like negative. So when you see the red where it's a negative number, that's because we obviously went below zero. And then there's the red from 0 to 25% because of our policy. So almost like should try to have different shades of red per se, because the closer you can get to 25%, we're within policy. You know, obviously below zero is bright red.
So it was originally budgeted in 26.
Mm-hmm.
And what kind of certainty or in your conversations, Peter, do you think the likelihood is, you know, ordering it now, we would be making that initial payment in 26 versus 25?
It changes by the day. So last week when I talked to them, everything was still fourth quarter 2025. And part of it too is my urgency is not to get the delivery on the truck. We don't pay for it till it arrives in the building. My urgency is the engine and not having another price increase. Talking to him today, I think it's honestly, we're as close to 50-50 as you could be, which side it lands on. I think with a little, letting them know we don't need to be first as long as we can get an engine reserved, I think it would fall into 2026. So, I know, I don't wanna say which city it is, but down in the metro that just ordered a ladder, and obviously ladder trucks take a little longer. Theirs was March of 2026, so.
Okay. So really the difference is that conversation, right? If we had budgeted for 26, either way.
And the reason we're pulling it ahead, sorry.
Go ahead.
The reason we're pulling ahead is, for a new type of engine or to not get the new type of engine, is that?
Yeah, that's a huge, well, there's two concerns. That's a huge one. In 2008, one of the local cities ended up ordering several engines that were first year of the new emissions. Their life expectancy on the engines are, like I say, 20, 25 years, somewhere in that area. Those engines are out of service already, some of them. You know, they've had major issues with those, all the way back to, as you talk about this 2027 emission standard, the engines aren't designed for that yet. So once the engine gets designed, then the truck manufacturers have to work around all that stuff to make everything else work. So I think it'd be a huge mistake if we can't get in on the last model year of a well-known engine. Every engine has its challenges, right? There's not gonna be a perfect one, but they're very well-known, I think. And part of them too is our city shop is a Cummins dealer, so there are other engine manufacturers out there that we can get a hold of, but it creates challenges from a maintenance standpoint for the city shop. The other side is I would say, the price difference. Even you look back at November of last year, we were at $780,000 for the same engine, and now, as you can see, that's jumped quite a bit. So, how long this price lasts, obviously, as soon as they move into the other ones, the prices jump considerably, so.
Yeah, and I can wrap my head around the difference in the engine and or hesitancy there. I feel like the price might be a scare tactic from a sales rep, simply because inflation isn't at the levels it was in 2020 and 2021, right? If we play that math out, it doesn't seem like, and again, we're all betting on that, but it doesn't seem like it would it would continue to play out at a high double-digit level, into the future. Rob, so we had planned to spend that money in 2026. And what was the original amount, planned for?
750,
750,
I believe, yeah, and with the price hike, that's where you see the fund becoming
I was gonna,
negative.
okay, that's where I was leading to, is so we're going to go negative because of the
difference.
potential price increase that's there. But leading up to it, our planning had been
750, yeah,
accurate to keep us in the green.
right.
Not being super familiar with grants and different things, obviously we got some for a different vehicle, and I don't know what happened in the latter, but purchasing now, are we missing any opportunities to potentially get some future grants that become available on these engines? Or even the new model engine that might be coming out, you know, obviously with the emissions, I'm assuming the government wants to, you know, incent potentially for us to utilize the lower emission trucks as well.
Yeah, great question. Landing on the grant we did, I feel extremely lucky to get that. I know the grant writer, he puts in, you know, above 12 grants per year that he writes, and we were the only one, from my understanding, that got one for a tender. I think we have a much better case for a tender. In fact, I looked with him at the truck, and we kind of talked about trying to write a grant for that. And he saw some challenges in doing that and receive it. He actually used to review a lot of the grants, so he saw some challenges in getting a grant for the engine. As far as with the new emissions, I don't really see any, I don't know of anything off the top of my head. And I'm always trying to chase any additional money we can bring into the fire department equipment fund, just knowing the past challenges of it. When I walked in, there wasn't a lot of planning for that, just because there's obviously a rapid growth within the city, but we were able to bring back, actually over the last 2 years, probably close to $500,000 of change in the fire department equipment fund between the $325,000 grant, selling ladder 28, we've got well over $100,000 for that, and several other grants and everything else that we brought in. So it just it's been kind of a challenge since we got in here. I realize there's only so much money in the pot, but it's kind of one of those things too that it's going to continue to, you know, if a truck's 19 years old, then a replacement for that one, you know, we're likely to spend some additional money in maintenance or even buying some kind of a used apparatus to replace the other one if we go much further. So.
And then Rob, on the deficiency, you know, from the planning projections that we have, obviously we have a few years before this becomes real or before that fund goes there. I mean, we could ultimately break that into 3 years of trying to make up some of that deficiency, right? The deficiency is a couple $100,000 roughly. Is that because it's the price of the vehicle that's different, or do you have a dollar amount versus a percentage?
It's 95.
They're 95,000
$95,175.
to get the fund above zero, and some additional on top of that if we want to meet the policy of 25%. So a little over 100.
Okay.
That we'd have to allocate to the fire equipment fund. We'd have to identify where the opportunity cost would be if we're allocating more to the fire equipment fund and taking less from other funds. But we do have a longer runway to do so.
Peter, from your perspective, are there things that could be pushed that might help that delta? Other capital improvements that could potentially be pushed beyond 27, call it, to change that projection?
That's a good question. I think it's pretty, you know, I think everything's kind of moved back for the most part. You know, everything we move, we kind of are setting ourselves up for failure down the road and additional costs. I'd have to look a little closer.
Yeah, we
on
could
it.
sit down and, it's probably hard to see from here, but if that was the direction of council to at least get above zero, I think Rob and Peter could sit down and certainly figure out ways to achieve that. You know, and I think from a council perspective and our financial policy perspective, you know, I think of the priorities of the, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, that's what you task us to identify is, you know, if this engine is a top priority because of this specific engine, and and the cost savings that we can achieve by ordering it now, and trusting Peter's expertise in the fire service world, then obviously something else might have to give to get that above zero, if that's what you guys want to achieve, and I'm certain that these two could figure out how to do that.
I think just from my perspective, I would love to see that, right? From what's 25%, what's the to zero? Sounds like it's the 95,000 roughly. And then what number gets to the 25? And then what, from a budgeting perspective, just in rearranging the extra 47,000 roughly from the budget or different capital delays on other plants and to get that fund to not hit below zero during that time based on a decision we make today. I know that I would like to see that.
Yeah, I would agree too. I think, you know the priorities. We're not here to tell you that by any means. But I think there'd be more comfort in that. I do very much appreciate the forethought in planning ahead and looking at things and understanding how the technology is changing and how that could potentially affect us 2 years from now. So, thank you for bringing it forward for discussion.
Question. Have we taken into consideration resale value of any of the vehicles, the engine that we're putting out of service or something like that?
Yeah, I've done some research and phone comparables, and I would say we roughly 25,000 be kind of top end in today's market for the used one. And actually, just one more point, clarification. I guess Mayor asked earlier about sales pitch or not, and we did look into other vendors, and we just felt business-wise that it'd be the best decision for our personnel and everything else to go with same vendor. I am getting the same stories as far as expected price increases. Some places are paying over $1 million for trucks already, so I truly believe that we're headed for over $1 million fire truck in a very, very short time, so.
Yeah, and I have to think, one of the elements that might be driving that is the ARPA funding. Is a lot of local governments flushed with cash looking to have to spend that by, is it end of next year?
Yep.
So that in itself might
And
force that dollar higher.
the one-time public safety aid too.
Yeah, specific to Minnesota. Yeah. Of that, so 20% of the 825 or 850 is allocated. Is that going to offset this truck, or where's that?
I have the fund spreadsheet open up and Rob's accounting for the full 900,000 out of the fire equipment fund all at once. And then to answer your question, I didn't, on the revenue side, he's also accounting for the sale so that's included in there. So when we say the 95,000 below zero, that includes the revenues and it's the full 900,000.
In our workshop, we had some discussion on that. That's, in my mind, I paired the two of the federal or the state funding that just came in to the need to now buy the fire truck. And so, for clarity, that's not connected, right? We've got funding coming in, but that'll be used for other equipment type funds.
Yeah, so when Rob ran a formula based on capital budget and operating budget of police and fire combined, because the public safety aid can go to both.
Yep.
And then figured out the split of 80-20. So this fund includes the 20% of the public safety aid to fire specifically, but we were all along projecting a 2026 purchase.
Yep.
Is that accurate? Is that what you're
Of
getting at?
750.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
But yeah, the amount changed,
But it's all, money's in the same fund, so it doesn't
Exactly.
matter.
Yep.
Last thing I had was, Peter, you brought up the the usable life of the truck, NFPA, if I wrote it down correctly, 1911.
Yep.
I guess now that's on council's radar of what our risk is, and I appreciate you not saying we need to get at 20. I've asked for a long time, from being on the fire department to being on city council, of how did we come up with a year 30 that all of our trucks just last 30 years, right? And so I guess from this, not as part of our decision tonight, but I would love for you to work through what would it take for us with Rob to get to a 25, right? If you're saying, hey, 25 is where we should be as a community, what does that look like? So that, again, a lot of our conversation tonight on topics has been around budgeting and planning for that financial future. What does it look like? So if you take your inventory and how do we get to 25, we can't do it all at once, but just so that we understand what that would take and can be equipped to make purchases in the future. I do think you're gonna have to have some flexibility. You talked about maybe 12 and a half years in a rotation. I think that's awesome, but when's the next engine type coming out, right? Or emission type coming out, and how does that flow? So I'd encourage how do we start planning forward and maybe have more of a window than a 12 and a half to say, hey, it could be at 10, it could be at 14. We should have some guidance of when the new emissions might come in the future, but I think that probably equips future council with a lot better planning on this.
Appreciate that, yeah, and actually Rob and I have talked about it, and that's one of the other reasons I wanted to get this sooner than later, just because the life expectancy of Tower 21 and the tender that we're bringing in, so if we can get those three together, 25 years from now, the council and the fire chief making this decision, working on this, we'll be able to say, hey, you know what, let's plan to bundle these three major truck purchases the same year, so I think there's a ton of value in that, so.
Okay. Council, any other questions? Seeing none, we need to have a motion for the purchase of a fire truck.
I'll make a motion to approve the fire purchase with the intent that Peter and Rob will work together on other capital improvements to get us to zero
Budget, yeah.
budget.
Okay, we have that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second, and for clarity, motion to approve up to 900,000. Staff will work to keep that budget or the account at or above zero. Is that? Jill, that's
Yep.
that. Thank you. Okay, motion and second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Department reports, administration.
Mayor, members of the council, you have my report in front of you. Obviously, the biggest news out of June was the official closure on the AIM properties. So happy to put that at the very top of my report at 100% done. And now the fun work begins of the redevelopment of the mill site, and we'll be discussing the 4th Avenue properties in upcoming meetings as well, especially around the landfill property itself. So that was probably one of the biggest items for June, and we're excited to move forward with those properties.
Awesome. Any questions for administration? Thank you. Finance.
Mayor, members of the council, you have my report as well. Budgetarily trending well throughout May of 2023, and I am anxiously awaiting the 2023 sales tax distribution. As you can see from my report, we still have 2022, but normally it comes out in July. So hoping at the next council meeting, when I present my report, we'll have an updated sales tax distribution, and it'll be greater than 2022. So any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions for finance? Thank you. Community development.
Mayor and members of the council, you have my monthly report in your packet. Just as of note, the storm permits from the previous few years of 2021 and 2022. As of today, we are down to 335 remaining permits. We do have a temporary position inspector that is doing those inspections. We did give them a goal date by September 1st, but I believe we'll probably achieve that by next month of this, around next month of this time. So that's great news on that. Any other questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions for community development? Thank you. City commission updates.
None at this time.
City council committee updates, miscellaneous business. Tim?
I just want to take one note and give a congratulations or a well done to our road and street crews that are out there. I've been driving around other cities that are still struggling with terrible conditions, potholes and loose gravel and everything. And again, I think that we all suffered pretty heavily this winter and struggled with that. I was up in a city in the northern side of the state this last week, and there's potholes there that you could fall in as a pedestrian and have to have someone come and pull you out of. So well done, and I appreciate the effort, and our residents do as well.
Jill?
Nothing tonight.
Alex? Judd?
Nothing tonight.
I think Tim is spot on with the condition. The one call out I would have is I continue to get calls on 35th, and I think I'm aware you guys do a lot of work out there. I continue to try and educate those callers of the difference between the city part and where the township starts and then where the township ends and the city picks back up. And I just think that's probably a bigger conversation that we have going into next pothole season of how do we and the township maybe message that together. Other than that, I thought where Tim was going was the 5 Points intersection is closed officially today.
Yes.
I know he enjoyed that.
Yeah.
So a lot of road construction going on in the southwest part of our city, and it's going to be a trying summer with some of that, but we'll get through it.
Not as trying as last year.
Yes, very much so.
Depends where you live.
And just,
And work.
And work.
we've gotten a lot of calls on 5 Points, and so I'll just publicly reiterate that that is a Stearns County project. It is not a City of Sartell project. I know John has taken a lot of calls too. So
That worked well last year, right?
yeah.
I imagine the county has gotten a lot of calls too. There's very limited signage off of 75.
I talked to the county engineer today about it, and they were looking into it, so I would have.
They actually had a squad out there.
Yeah, directing traffic.
At 322nd Street, directing traffic, because there was no signage. If you actually missed the signage on 75 and turned onto County Road 133, you wouldn't know it was a dead end until you got to the dead end. And so there's nowhere to turn around. It's a 2-lane road and field on both sides. So there was 100 cars slammed into there.
It really came to head when the semi went down there and tried to turn around.
Oh, I missed that part.
Yeah, it's a good awareness. It'll take us a little bit in the community, a little bit to get through that. But yes, it is a county project, and sounds like we're supporting it the best we can from a city. I don't think I have anything further. Would look for a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.